Welcome to the Black Fire Network. The Black Fire Network are working from Motherland, so
power off.
You can hear me on the line. We have someone who is Miranda Los Salón, Bluetooth, 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 YouTube, let me know if you can hear me. We think it will be probably to find the man for I would love to know if you can hear me. I think that the song, I play two now, you can hear me just two now, thank you. Audio is back. Okay, thank you.
We are back. Let me know if you can hear me clear. Please kindly key in on if you can hear me clear. I think we're having a bit of a problem with the audio, but someone says it seems to be like there's a wave or a wind. I don't know what's up with that, but let me know if you can hear me right now.
Hi, Spikes. I can hear you right now. You're loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I trust that everyone is doing fantastic. Now, of course, I want to welcome everyone into the show. I see the brother Bombi Damfa already with us. And of course, you're saying greetings, family. Greetings to you too. Thank you also so much, Sister Rumbizai Muzopa from Harare. Remember, this is a Black Hot Fire Network, Voices of the Motherland. My name is Spikes. And now, of course, we are looking forward to having an interesting as well as an engaging show today, talking about all matters culture right here on the African continent and even globally, Black people's culture. And now, of course, Keith, thank you so much for also joining. As you say, now no sound. I believe right now it's fixed. And I believe that everyone can hear me clear right now. Early on, when you were starting the show, I tried to play you a song, but nonetheless, I think you might have missed that particular one. But the name of the song is If You Ask Me. And of course, that is done by the one and only Omawumi. She comes all the way from Nigeria. There are a couple of interesting artists from Nigeria. And every time that we are starting out the show, I like to share a little bit of the musical taste from the African continent. And this particular lady happens to be a wonderful voice all the way from Nigeria. And of course, in Nigeria, we also do have some other interesting artists that are very, very much talented, and they are doing their thing across the continent. For example, this is Omawumi, and the song I played you earlier, it goes by the name If You Ask Me. Let me just jam a little bit so that you can hear.
Heavy from my
If you ask me, the matter for ground. Now who I go ask? If you ask me, now who I go ask? No matter where you see, so it's every star.
Now, of course, that is the one and only Omawumi. And also, I want to highlight also another interesting artist from West Africa before we get into today's topic, which is culture. And this is Chidima. And of course, many people know Chidima for her song. There is a very, very popular one of hers, which is known as Kedike. And of course, when you're talking about Kedike, it's a very, very popular a very, very popular song. And they have also done collaborations with the likes of Flavor in West Africa. I don't know if Rumbi, are you conversant? Do you know any of these two artists? Do you know Tidima from Nigeria?
Yes, I'm familiar with her.
Oh, you're familiar with her. What about Omawumi? Omawumi, the lady that just played your song of hers. Her name is Omawumi.
It's my first time hearing of her.
She also happens to be very, very popular in West Africa and Nigeria in particular. And of course, that was a song that had an interesting video. If you're looking for some music to add onto your playlist, I believe you should actually also get to add a little bit of Omawumi right there, as well as another interesting artist also, of course, coming from West Africa. Her name is Simi. I believe maybe perhaps Rumbi has also heard about Simi. And those are some of the wonderful African ladies doing some wonderful music right there in West Africa. Nonetheless, I just want to welcome everyone once again to the show. Sister Angela Morris, thank you so much. You're saying hello, Black Otfa family. And also Bombi Danfa from the Gambia says, greetings family, greetings to you too. And also Kid Asante Sana. Thank you for giving us this wonderful platform. We do get to appreciate you giving us this platform because you can be able to, of course, share information. And we believe information has an impact. Information actually has an impact. And of course, there has been many different kinds of mainstream media. You do find a lot of information that is meant to misinform the people. And of course, this has also to do with the mainstream media that has gone on a spree of brainwashing people with incorrect information. But nonetheless, on the Black Otfa Network, we just want to come and, of course, interact with the family, sharing factual and reliable information from across the African continent. And we do have some updates that have to do with African news. But before we get into that, I just want to share with us some interesting African proverbs. And of course, I do have a Ugandan proverb that does say, if two brothers fight to death, a stranger will come by and take over the inheritance. If two brothers fight to death, a stranger will come by and take over the inheritance, which is actually very, very much true, because you do find people fighting everywhere, all across the continent. You do find people, especially when it comes to matters of land, people do not see eye to eye when it comes to factors at all, the issue of land, and many people get into fighting. Other people do not also get to see eye to eye when it comes to tribal matters. And we have seen the African continent being held back because of the tribalism that has affected many different countries. For example, in Kenya itself, we do have 47 tribes. And of course, in other different places like Nigeria, they do have about 150 tribes. In other places like Cameroon, they also do have over 100 tribes. And therefore, we do find people fighting and not realizing that they are one people, and therefore they get onto, they get into disagreements and fight and kill one another. And eventually what happens is that other people from the outside will just come up and take over their resources, or take over their land, or take over whatever inheritance they might have gotten from their father, which is actually a thing to ponder. That is actually a thing to ponder when two brothers fight to the death. A stranger will come by. Because what is happening is that they have been difficulty finding a solution for Madi, simply because of the different parties being involved and every party trying to pull, towards its own gain or towards its own agenda. And of course, we have talked about the recent coup in Mali. And Abi was saying that the president was deposed by the military. And of course, that was through a military coup some few weeks ago. And that was in the month. We're still having a bit of a problem. I apologize once again. I was to share with us this particular story coming from Mali before we get into the topic of the day. And what is happening in Mali is that they have been a problem of solving the solving the issue of the political leadership in this particular country. And what is happening is that there was a coup in the recent few weeks. And these deposed the president, the former president Abubakar Keita, in this particular country, and therefore the country right now is under military regime. And of course, there has been pressure mounting from various sources to move from a military regime to go into a civilian rule, and of course, the organization of an election to take place in this particular country so that people can be able to move forward and, of course, pursue development goals as well as political stability and even economic stability in this particular country. Nonetheless, I was asking you earlier before we lost you, Sister Rumbi, what are your expectations in the month of September? Before we get in, what are your expectations with the month of September? People have different expectations in the month when you're having a start of the month.
Oh yeah, I'm just hoping for more opportunities, positive vibes, and no negativity. And I hope by the time September ends, we won't be talking about the pandemic. I'm just tired being locked up at home.
Unfortunately, also that makes it the list. Unfortunately, that also makes it to the list of almost everyone right here because we are sort of tired with this whole pandemic. People cannot be able to move around and do things as they were supposed to do them. For example, there were some people that took out loans at the start of the year, and they were hoping that maybe they could start up businesses in different areas. For example, the restaurant businesses and other things like that. Only for them now to be held back by the whole pandemic. They cannot be able to run businesses such as restaurants and other different businesses. For example, others took money from banks to be able to set up businesses such as events franchises. Right now, you cannot be number of days. The curfew period. It did extend this particular curfew for about 30 more days. I don't know how the situation is in Harare. Did they expand or have? Do you still have the curfew in Harare?
Yes, yeah, they moved it up from 6 p.m. to 8
Yeah.
p.m. and then working hours from 8 to 4:30.
Oh, so the working hours have also been shortened from 8 to 4:30.
Yes.
In Nairobi, Kenya, people can actually move around till 9 p.m. That is when the curfew starts from 9 p.m. in the night, and it ends at 5 a.m. in the morning. And of course, people can still conduct their businesses from 8 a.m. to the same normal time, 5 p.m. And that is the
Can
kind
you,
of a situation
okay,
we're having.
but your country can anyone just move around, or you have to have like a pass to be able to move around?
No, people can be able to move around from maybe Mombasa to
No.
Nairobi, from Nairobi
In
to
my country, you
Kisumu.
need to have a pass. You need to have a letter um, addressing to where you're going. If you don't have that, you can get yourself arrested. Or if they are nice that day, they'll just tell you to either walk back home or find your way back home.
When they ask for a bribe, because that is the order of the day in Kenya, they will actually ask for a bribe. They'll ask you to give them some money, so that you can you
Yeah,
can.
at times, yeah, obviously, you can get away with it. But then, if you don't want to check out something, then you can be arrested, detained for a day, or you can be told to go back home.
I think, according to what you're saying, I think Zimbabwe's corruption is not as bad. The police, or the authorities, the corruption is not as bad as it is sometimes in Kenya. But nonetheless, we are all hoping that by the time maybe perhaps these Mondays are ending, maybe the curfew can be lifted from different countries, and people can be able to see a little bit of normalcy. I always keep on saying that we can never get back to the way things were. We can never get back to complete normalcy, but at least some sense of normalcy is also not so bad. And of course, before we get in the topic, I also do have something I wanted to touch on, and this has to do with Econ. And of course, My computer froze. Sorry about that. My computer actually froze, and of course, apologies for that. There seems to be a bit overheat, not really a bit, but rather a lot. But nonetheless, I was talking about the problem with Mali, and I was saying that there has been a problem when it comes to finding a long-lasting solution when it comes to getting an agreement on how that particular country can be run. And of course, the political crisis has been ongoing for a very, very long time. And people have actually taken it to the streets. People have actually gone to the streets. And of course, there was a lot of political upheaval in that particular country, even before the military decided to take over the leadership of this particular country. I do not fancy anything with military leadership. I have never fancied anything with military leadership because I believe most of the time you will find a lot of people, especially the generals, seeking to foster their own personal, their own personal gains, and therefore the running of the country is normally most of the times is in jeopardy. And you get to realize that, for example, in countries at the north of Africa, such as Egypt. We also do have countries such as Algeria, such as Libya, and of course, such as countries such as Tunisia. When there was the Arab Spring, when there was the Arab Spring revolution, most of the countries, the leadership was taken over by the military. And of course, you realize that there wasn't any change forthcoming because you find that eventually there was a transition from the military into some other leaders are chosen. But these leaders did not bring any change. That is a problem. You might be fighting for something, fighting for change, fighting for a revolution, but you also have to be very, very careful because at some point there might be people who want to sabotage the kind of a change that you want to you aspire to get. And now, of course, I was sharing with us a story coming from West Africa before my computer froze, and I was saying that the West African artist Akon, who is very, very much popular in the States, has put together a futuristic and Afro-futuristic project, and it's called the Akon City, or the Akon City in Senegal. And of course, he has decided to invest in terms of infrastructure and building hotels and other businesses in this particular country. And from what you can see, the futuristic Pan-African city was named after, the hip hop and R&B artist Akon. Now, of course, it's officially underway. And now, of course, this is in Mboniene. Mboniene in Senegal are some 100 kilometers from the capital. And of course, the Grammy-nominated star intends for this project to provide much-needed jobs to the Senegalese people and serve as home to African ancestry in the diaspora who feel out of place because of the racial injustice when outside they face outside the motherland. And now, of course, from what you can see, this is him embarking on a very, very big project because of course, people will ask themselves some important questions like how he is backing or who is backing the construction of this particular project, because it's very, very much important to actually ask, reverse engineer, as a kid likes to call it, reverse engineer, someone or the project, how the project is going. And now, of course, Akon City has been unveiled. And now, of course, this is the plans for a new futuristic and a green city. This is, of course, from what you can see, the image of the architecture that perhaps you would love to go put down in Senegal. Some people have said that some of the people who are backing the construction of this particular project are the Chinese. That is what some people have come out and said. So as you come from, let me just quote what he was saying himself before I quote what other people have said. I said, I wanted to build a city or a big project like this that will give them motivation to know that there is a home back home, the artist said. So as you come from America or Europe or anywhere else in the diaspora, you feel like you want to visit Africa, we want Senegal to be your first stop. Why is Senegal becoming the first stop? Then what's next after Senegal? But nonetheless, the new city being built in south of Dakar will also try to ease congestion and overcrowding in the capital, where almost 4 million people live. And of course, Akon rose to prominence in 2004, of course, and he has been doing music ever since around that particular year. I don't know what the sentiments are about the construction of this big city. And of course, I would love to ask Rumbi once again. Do you know Akon? Have you listened to any of Akon's music? I think I can hear you. I think your audio is clipped. There might be a problem. I think your audio. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm saying I know him. Akon used to sing a lot of good songs back in the day. Then he just went quiet.
For some reason, I think he went to
What-
business. I think he switched from music to some other different businesses. But right now, they're saying he was actually granted a citizenship in Senegal because that is his original home. And right now, he has decided to put in some investment in that particular country. And I believe most of these particular businesses will be hotels. And what I was saying is that, like Kid likes to say, it's good to reverse engineer, a project, or even reverse engineer a big construction project like this and see what's going on, because some people had said that they are in cohorts, they are in business, or they are in bed with the Chinese, and some of the Chinese have been granting him some of the funding for the electricity project. He has also been involved in putting together electricity projects. And of course, people have said that the Chinese can really not be trusted. And of course, that is very, very much true. And I've seen people working with the Chinese to put together some of these projects. You might also ask yourself, what is the end goal? What is the end goal of these particular projects? But nonetheless, I do believe that if it might create some jobs, it's a good thing. But there should also be a scrutiny. There should also be a scrutiny just to make sure that he's not driving people off the cliff, and maybe perhaps putting them in debt or things like that. But nonetheless, I will be studying more. I will be researching more on that particular project before making some more commentaries. But for the part of creating jobs, I am totally with that. If we can have some more jobs for the African people, then I am totally with that. And of course, this is Akon City. It's being built south of Dakar. And of course, Dakar is the capital city of Senegal. But I also do have some reservations about Akon, because Akon was recently quoted another day. He was on a show called Vlad TV show. He was on an interview with Vlad. And he was saying that he does not believe in, in slavery. That is what he was saying. He was also saying that Black people have gotten over slavery. And if he believes that Black people have gotten over slavery, according to his thinking, then why will he be insisting that he wants to give the African people in diaspora the opportunity to just come and give them motivation, and of course help them see that there is a home, there is another home right here in Senegal. These are also two conflicting thoughts, because I believe, as Akon himself was saying, that he does not believe there was the slave trade, and of course he was saying on that particular show that people in Africa are over slavery, and they do not focus on slavery and colonialism anymore, and they have moved on from that, and now they're past that, and but you can never be able to construct a future without also taking a look at your past and knowing where you're coming from, so that you can be able to see where you're going. That is my thinking. Nonetheless, Kid Newsom says, shit, I'm driving around Ohio without a mask, and people are going on with their lives. I don't know if Kid is in Toledo. I think Kid is in Toledo. He's probably getting a sandwich somewhere in Toledo. But nonetheless, I want to also welcome Derek Askew, who says Black First. That is what we are all about right here on the Blackwood Fun Network. And I was saying, I would love to see more people get on the African continent and perhaps invest on the African continent. But sometimes I'm also a bit skeptical with some different projects, just like this one that Akon is putting down. And he has said that it has been unveiled. It has been unveiled officially. And from the photo I can see, I do not know whether this is the same kind of a thing we shall see in practicality, or this is just by the photo. But of course, I wouldn't doubt. I do believe anything is possible. And he was saying that he wants to provide jobs for the African people, and also he also wanted to show that while the coronavirus pandemic has the world doubting the economies in Africa, a Senegalese, an investor who could have stayed in the US indefinitely, decides to come home and invest in his own country. And of course, the architect Hussein Bakri is working on the project. And of course, he said that I said, Hussein, I want my buildings to look like the sculptures. You know, when you travel and you are a tourist and you buy these little statues, I need a building that looks like that looks just like a statue that you can take home. I don't know if this looks like a statue, but nonetheless, we shall wait and see how the production, or how the construction of these particular projects goes on. I said it's in south of Dakar, and Dakar is the capital city of this particular nation of Senegal, where he also does have citizenship in this particular place. He says a big part of the project is to help African Americans who don't understand their culture. That is what he was saying, but of course, I also doubt some of the things that he says, because he was on an interview. He was done on an interview, and he said that he does not believe in the Africans, the slavery trade, or the transatlantic slave trade. That is what I meant to say. Bombi Damfa, thank you so much. Nish Penda, how are you doing? We do have Akon already, starting his construction project in Senegal. I don't know how you feel about this particular project for the family. And Aki says, Spike, that wasn't a revolution. That was a United States CIA-backed coup. You're talking about the Arab Spring in North Africa. Or are you talking about the West African coup in Mali? Because I know for a fact that there has been so many coups in Mali. There have been so many coups in Mali, not to Mali, but in West Africa. There have been a long history of coups in West Africa. And of course, these are not just internally. These are not internal. Most of them have been funded and sponsored by people that these are good vibes. We trust that you are doing well, and of course, it's a good thing. For sister, this is the same person making songs to that Beast who ratted people out. It's crazy because they are contradicting. There are many things. There are many contradictions with this, but nonetheless, I know what you're saying, Sister Nishpenda. For Rumbizai Muzopa, have you seen? People coming back from the diaspora and investing back in your own country? Have you seen this particular kind of a surge in the numbers of people maybe leaving the USA and coming back to Zambia and trying to construct or trying to invest in the country? Have you seen an interest, or have you seen a surge in the numbers of people doing these projects?
Yes.
I can hear you. Okay, go on.
I'm seeing many people who are coming back to construct and giving back. For example, there's a man who was in Dubai. We all know Dubai is quite good in terms of the infrastructure. So I see, I'm sure maybe he learned quite a few things from there, and he came back and he did some a recreational facility for weddings and whatnot. You can tell that the vision that he came with is not from around, and his business is growing because he's the only one who could come up with that and took the risk to invest in such in such a dire economy, and yet still he's making it. So yes, I'm seeing people who are coming back with new ideas, with fresh ideas, and they're really making it here.
It's a good thing because sometimes people might look at Zambia and think, Zambia and Zimbabwe, or even look at other different countries that are not doing well economically at the moment. And I think that they are high risk, but it's still a good thing to see that there are some people coming back from the diaspora. Some of them who do have a Zimbabwean heritage and are just trying to build with the Zimbabwean people. But most of the time, we do find it's the other way around. It's people living in Zimbabwe trying to go and, look for opportunities out there. And then when they are gone, they just, involved in building the economies of the countries where they go to, and forget or do away with, their home place or their original place, which is Zimbabwe. But in Kenya, we haven't had, there hasn't been that particular side. It hasn't been, if at all people are coming back and investing, then they have not been loud about it. They have not been loud about it. I haven't had so many people, reflecting back on, on investing back in the African continent. Some of the people, you'll find them, going to Europe or going to other different places, and forgetting, building with the African people. But nonetheless, what we all see, or what I would like to ask people, sometimes you do find the image of the African continent being has been destroyed. The image of the African people, the image of the African continent has been destroyed, and therefore, even people who want to come and invest on the continent are really, really not sure whether to come and do so. And also, for example, in the Africans in the diaspora, whether be it people who have come from here then went, or people who are the African descendants of African descendants of slaves, what you realize is that some of the time they do not have the correct information. But we are fixing it right here on the Blackwood Fire Network. We want to give accurate information about Africa, so that people can be able to make much more decisions. Because some of the time you find, because of the misinformation, people do not want anything to do with Africa or investing back here, whether be it people who have left Africa and went and succeeded elsewhere and then come back, or whether be it people that have been outside Africa for a very, very long time. But nonetheless, I see Sister Nish says, yes, a lot of our people finally are using sense and foresight. Africa is the future and our home. I do get to agree with you, Sister Nish. And of course, right here on the Blackwood Fire Network, we are all about sharing information that can be, can be used, information that can be acted upon, just to make important decisions. And nonetheless, our topic for today is all about culture and African culture. And of course, some people might ask why it is important to preserve culture. And of course, cultural heritage and natural history is our nation has a very, very high value and unique. You cannot even place an amount. You cannot place even, you cannot put an amount on the value of culture of different of all different nations. And what you get to realize, for example, if you're looking at the cultural heritage, if you're looking at the cultural heritage of the people of Egypt, or let me just say ancient Kemet, they do have a very, very rich history and culture. And therefore, you cannot just say that this particular culture is worth about, $20 trillion, or this culture is worth about whatever amount that you might try to place on, because this has been built over many, many years. And now, of course, as we all know, culture is a way of life. And of course, culture changes over time. But nonetheless, it's very, very much important to see that we are able to preserve the beliefs, the aspirations, and of course the daily routines of the people that all constitutes culture, because it keeps the integrity of the people. And we were asking ourselves a very, very important questions, like how can the youth be involved in the preservation of African culture? One of the things that has hindered, the role or the inclusion of the young people in preserving our African culture is because of the misinformation or the lack of information that has been perpetuated. This is because when you go to schools, and when we did have the introduction of westernization, we did have the Western system of education, many people decided to do away with their culture. And of course, even what we went to learn in schools, this, of course, was information that was incorrect in most of the cases, and therefore people do not have an appreciation or even an understanding of our own culture, because people are told that our culture is backward. People are told that if you're trying to practice these cultural practices, then you're backward in thinking. And of course, many people eventually believed the notion that if you're practicing African culture, then you're not sophisticated. But sophistication itself came from Africa. Now, of course, that is what we were talking about yesterday when we were talking about the Moors. The Moors actually brought civilization into Europe, and they also brought the sophistication. But when you're talking about culture, you also want to look at some of the things that have to do with the cultural practice, such as the rituals and some rites of the African people. For example, there is a rites of passage in different African communities. For example, what we do have age groups. We did have the age groups. We did have the age groups and the age sets in Africa, in places, in different communities, such as the Samburu community, the Maasai community, the Kikuyu community, and all these are different tribes. All these tribes do have their own different kinds of cultural identities, and they do pass on these particular cultural ideologies and practices from one generation to another through informal education. But what we are seeing right now is that informal education has lost its place. Informal education has actually lost its place. And of course, another thing that has led to people not even being involved, in actually preserving their culture is the misinformation. Like I said, the brainwash. And of course, I do not know about some of the cultural practices that you have seen in your own country. What are some of the cultural practices that are still Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You were saying?
I was asking you, what are some of the traditional cultural practices that are still practiced in Zimbabwe? What are some of the cultural practices that are still practiced by different communities in Zimbabwe? I would love to know maybe one or two.
All right. Back in the day, people would depend on hunting and livestock production. And again, there are some cultures who are still doing that. Who men go to hunt early in the morning or late in the evening, and then they solely depend on that. They isn't this going to the butcher, going to whatever to get food. They solely depend on hunting. Even in this 21st century, they depend on hunting. They depend on firewood for their lighting. There aren't these torches, bulbs, lamps, all these flashy things. They're still living like that right now in this modern 21st century. So yeah, there are still people who are still doing things the old-fashioned way.
But of course, when you're talking about that, we also do have the same culture. Also has to do with the way of life or the livelihoods of our people. And of course, we also do have some communities right here that are pastoralist communities in Kenya, especially in the northeastern part of Kenya. And of course, they do have some practices that they have held onto. For example, no, I was talking. For example, when you're talking about herding cattle, and the young boys being given the responsibility of herding cattle till they get to a certain age. Then when they get to a certain age, they also assigned another different duty, and they start now. They move in age groups, like I was saying earlier, in age sets. And therefore, when you are this age to this particular age, you're supposed to be herding cattle or doing this and that. And then when you get to this particular age, you're supposed maybe to to get yourself a wife and do things in a different way and get elevated to another different level. These are same kind of cultural practices we also do have with the pastoralist communities in Kenya. But right now, people have actually been swayed. Like I was saying, people have actually been swayed. People have actually been swayed from traditional practices because they have been told that, for example, getting to herding or getting to go and rear your cattle is one of the ways that is a backward way. But we want to touch on a little bit. We want to touch on a little bit about how the youth can be involved in the preservation of our culture. But before then, let me get a comment from our Keith and Sister Nish. I see Keith says, if you don't value and protect your culture, you will be misled and worship what is beneath you. I actually do get to agree that is actually very, very true. Keith say next, I actually closed to Toledo. Lucky guess. And you say, no, the Arab Spring was backed by the CIA. The problem is that of course that's true, but the problem is that even when it was backed by the CIA, what happened is that people got rid of our leaders, and then there was a military regime for a while, and then they went back into putting new leaders in place. And when we did have the putting of new leaders in place, these were the same leaders, just like the ones they had already gotten out of power. And therefore, there wasn't any kind of a benefit from these kinds of revolutions in these the Arab Spring. The Tunisia. You also do have Egypt and the countries at the north of Africa. The same results. They went around and found the same results, which is actually depressing. But nonetheless, we were talking about cultural preservation, and I believe one of the ways of one of the ways of preserving culture is through, programs, putting in place programs that involve the youth, just to get to impart the knowledge of different cultural systems, and of course, just get to them to have an appreciation and understanding of their own culture. Because some people have been thinking that westernization is the way. When you are westernized, you are more sophisticated, but westernization and sophistication are two different things, and therefore they should not be confused. One should not be confused for another. And of course, there is also the not just the involvement in those programs, in those education programs, but also there should also be formal, some sort of a formal teaching, informal teaching. Because what you get to realize is that the formal education has left out the formal education does not really give much prominence to the traditional cultures. Some of the time you'll not go to school and learn about your cultures in different communities. What will happen is that you will be taught the way of the white man or the way of the European, and you'll find people thinking that is a proper way. And of course, what also needs to happen is that the African people should be shown the value of their own culture, because if you do not know the value of something, sometimes you might neglect it. When you do not know the value of something, sometimes you might end up neglecting it. For example, there is the issue of the traditional systems of the traditional cultures, or the traditional systems of culture that involved African traditional healing. And we have seen people using different herbs, trees and herbs to cure different diseases. And right now, as you're speaking, people have been brainwashed to thinking that pharmaceutical companies are the best solutions for them. Are the companies that will give them the solutions to different ailments. And of course, because of the change in the culture and people have adopted the fast food lifestyles, right now we do have people falling sick and then going to these big pharma, and then big pharma not coming up with solutions and eventually reducing some of the life expectancy of the people right here on the African continent. And what needs to be done is that this particular information and knowledge also needs to be imparted to the younger generation. I don't know if you do have such kind of a systems, the traditional healing systems in Zimbabwe, or have you come across some of these traditional healing and cure systems in Zimbabwe? Because right here in Kenya we do have people using herbs and roots and other parts of trees and roots even to cure different diseases. Do you have the same happening in Zimbabwe?
Yes, we have that, and we have people who solely depend on herbal solutions when it comes to their health, when it comes to almost everything in their well-being. So yeah, it's something that is quite really normal out here, depending on herbal solutions.
But of course, in some countries you have seen some governments are trying to fight some of these traditional doctors. You have seen the government trying to outlaw the practices of some of these traditional doctors. One of the things is because there is not a deeper understanding of how they work. And that is why you do find some governments in some African countries trying to fight these traditional healers and medicine men. But we have also seen through the years people wanting to belittle the impact, or people wanting to belittle the contribution of these traditional medicine and traditional doctors in terms of in the healthcare system. And of course, that was part of the African culture, where people would actually impart the knowledge of the traditional cures and systems, traditional cure systems from one generation to another generation. But right now we have not seen that particular kind of knowledge being transferred from one generation to another generation. And of course, that has been towards the detriment of our African culture. Another thing is that when you look at some of these particular solutions that have been offered, that are fighting the traditional cures and systems, you do find most of them are really meant even to reduce the lifespan of people. You might not really understand it, but you might be consuming drugs that are really going to affect your life expectancy. And the African people have been duped into believing that using traditional systems is backward. Using roots and herbs and other different cures that are traditional is backward, whereas that is not in any sense backward. The young people, of course, in terms of preserving the African culture, should also be involved in programs, and these, of course, will be programs bringing information in terms of informal setting, in informal setups on different cultural systems and cultural beliefs, and also cultural practices that perhaps were beneficial to the African people. And this is the only way we can be able to move forward by incorporating our culture, incorporating our culture, even with the current solutions that you do have, because people right now we do have a different, for example, machines and things like that, the technology. And of course, some of the technology has resorted to people outfacing some of the cultures. Some of the cultures have been outfaced by technology because people have advanced technologically, making some of the cultures be faced out. But nonetheless, I do believe that having a balance of our culture with this new innovation and technology will be the thing that would actually take Africa on the next level in terms of developing and in terms of also embracing our culture and embracing our African identity, because culture and identity also moves hand in hand. If there is a very popular Swahili saying. There is a very popular Swahili saying which says Mwatamila ni mtumwa, which says whomever deserts their culture is a slave. Whomever deserves their culture is a slave. And that, of course, is a Swahili proverb. It says Mwatamila ni mtumwa. And if you decide to desert your own culture and assimilate the culture of another, then you automatically become the slave of whomever's culture you have assimilated. For example, in West Africa, these not just in West Africa, but I'm using the example of West Africa. The French were really into the assimilation system, where they would come into your own country and force you to assimilate their own cultures and force you to assimilate their own language, assimilate everything that they bring. And what happened is that most West African countries, you do find them even having a mindset, even the mindset of the French, the way they do their things, the way they do say their things, the way they go about their things. Most of them decided to desert their own culture and assimilate the culture of the French. And of course, that is toward the detriment of the West African people. And that is why sometimes we might have some of the things that we do see happening in Nigeria, happening in the West African countries that were former French colonies. But nonetheless, I would just love to ask Rumbi, as we wind up, what are some of the solutions, or how can the youth be involved in our preservation of our culture? That is, I would just like to get your 2 cents on it as well. I was saying myself that through education and through forums that can be able to give them the knowledge and the information on culture, that is perhaps one of the ways that you can actively see that the youth are being involved in preserving culture. What are some of the ways, or what is the way you think that the youth can be involved, whether be it in Zimbabwe, whether be it in Kenya, whether be it in South Africa, wherever? How can the youth be involved in the preservation of our culture?
I think also the youth as well, they need to be willing as well,
Yeah.
because there are times when like the knowledge that we having the access to right now on the Black Wildfire Network, there are people out there, right? Let's say they have access to this information as well. They also have to be willing themselves, the individuals, to say, what, no matter what, um I should know my roots. I should know where I come from, because knowing where you come from is the best way on how you will be able to preserve your culture. The youth nowadays, I think, the youth nowadays, they are lazy. People don't want to read. People don't want, like, the information you're saying right now. I'll tell you, what, out here, no one will even know that there was a coup wherever. There's this echo in whatever city and all. We also need to read. We need, every day you need to give yourself time to read and know what's going on out there, because you can't preserve something that you don't know. You can't preserve something that you're not knowledgeable with. The moment us we appreciate our African roots, us we appreciate where we're coming from, and are willing as well, you to know, you to, like, the way, let's say, like, your surname, right? What's your surname, Spikes?
Sorry?
Your surname.
It's Wamoyo.
Hey, what?
Yeah, it's Wamoyo.
Okay, you
Yeah.
are a proud Wamuyu son.
Yeah.
That is the same way you should be proud to
Yeah.
be Africans, because once you know your place as a Mawuyu, you will not
Yeah.
know what I preserve the legacy of the family. So also as youth, we need to be really proud of where we're coming from. You are not in Africa. We are not in Africa by mistake or by chance. Where you are right now is where you should be. But well, people want to take shortcuts and see themselves living their life in Paris. Um,
That's a problem because of the brainwash.
exactly. So for us, the youth, right, we really need to identify ourselves and know who we are. Because the moment we do that, we'll preserve our culture effortlessly, because you love your culture. You love to be African. You love to be Kenyan. You love to be Zimbabwean. You love to be South African. So that's all that I can say.
Yeah, that is, of course, a good way also to put it. And Kid is saying, those people in Egypt today are not Kemetic people spikes; they are white tags. And Ishpen also says those drugs are not made for us at all. They will mess you up. It's very, very much important to get to keep away from some of these chemicals and drugs that have been presented by the pharmaceuticals. And even as we move in to the closer to the end of the show, I would also remind us that there will be a lot of information coming about the vaccines, and people might be confused into thinking that this is a solution, but nonetheless, stay away from those vaccines as well. And of course, it has been a delight right here on the Voices of the Motherland. We were discussing briefly about how to preserve culture, as well as some of the different matters that are taking place right here on the African continent. My name is Spike, and of course, we have been hosting the show with Rumbi. And remember, you can join us on the Africa Today show. We are looking forward to getting to interact with you later on that particular show in about maybe an hour and a half's time, and we shall be discussing different issues that have to do with our people globally. We shall be getting to see what's good and what's new. And you're saying because Spike Sati is to benefit the West, not the people. Exactly, I do agree with you. And of course, we will need to awaken. And of course, as Zerumbi was saying, people also have to get out there to research the information. The information will not come to you. You have to go out there and research the information. Once again, much peace and love. Till next time, I want to wish you a happy and productive day ahead. Remember to join us on the Africa Today show. So, how do you say Kwaheri? How do you say goodbye in Shona?
It's just bye bye. Don't wanna later.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Nonetheless, much peace and love. Till next time, Kwaheri. This is Oma Wumi. The name of the song is If You Ask.
Now who I go out? The reason why it's all over.